And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Disability Employment Awareness Month webinar number 2. Today, we're talking about the bottom line benefits of working with vocational rehabilitation services. And very excited. This is the third or fourth year, I think, that we're doing this. And we do seminars each week for the entire month. Each week we address a different issue. Last week was long COVID and how to deal with long COVID, both for employees as well as employers in the workplace. This week, we're talking about vocational rehabilitation services. Next week, Robin Farris, Candace Booth, and Antoinette Verdon will be joining us on assistive technologies. And then the final week, we will be having a potpourri of folks coming in to talk about the Summer Earn and Learn program. We have got the CEO of Sweet Heat Jam Company. He will be in to talk about how he started his company and how he and his employees work together, and they sell their jams at HEB, and he's quite funny. So we're looking forward to a very good week. We're going to bring up, or a good month, I should say. I'm going to bring up the seminar here real quick, and we'll share that with you. Give me 1 second. And we are screen sharing. Once again, today's presentation is accessibility in the workplace and the bottom line benefits of using Texas Workforce Solutions Vocational Rehabilitation Services. Our presenter today is none other than Arthur Jones. Arthur is a 24-year Army veteran, and when he got done with that, it wasn't enough fun for him, so he went and got an MBA at the University of Texas A&M. And he's a business relationship coordinator for the state of Texas. So he works with employers in the area of vocational rehabilitation to discuss diversity, accountability, and inclusion. He assists people with disabilities in locating and acquiring employment, and works I can't see it on this side of my screen here. Arthur, how many counties do you work? It's blocked by one of the other things here. It's quite a few counties.
Yeah, a lot of counties.
A lot of counties. And here at ours, here at Workforce Solutions Rural Capital area, we have 9. I believe you have more than that.
Yes.
He works with helping folks find employment. So I'm going to turn it over to Arthur Jones. Arthur.
Good morning, everyone. The counties that I work the Travis County and what they call the donut, every county around Travis County, the Austin area that touches that Travis County. So I cover all those counties from Lano up on the northwest side, all the way down to, what is that? Fayette down there on the southwest, east side. So I cover that whole donut around the Travis County area, including Travis County. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the real short and brief about the Texas Workforce Vocational Rehabilitation Services and what our mission is to promote and support workforce systems that create value and offer employers, individuals, and communities the opportunity to achieve and sustain economic prosperity. So that's our mission statement. That's what we're designed to do. And we are there to help individuals and employers. So while I'm talking about this, you might hear me use a term as dual customers. So those dual customers, what we're talking about is individuals and we're talking about employers. I'll separate them out, but when I use the word customer, it might flow back and forth between the two. Okay, what is the American Disabilities Act, or ADA? What it is it prevents discrimination against individuals with disabilities. And what is a disability? It's a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Now, that in itself could be recorded, like some people may have a disability from birth. It could be over time where someone has lost their hearing and have acquired a disability, or lost their vision and have acquired a disability over time. So it could be known by other people And that's where the two differences are, whereas someone knowing about the disability, but is not recorded, in record. Okay, so vocational rehabilitation services, better known as our services. We cover 3 areas: adults, youth, and elderly people. I'm not going to talk about the elderly people, but I'm going to talk about the adult services, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the youth. And so let's get into about the adult services. And how do we help them? Well, we help adults by either obtaining or retaining employment. So how do we help them find employment? Next slide. Well, how do we do that? We give them counseling and guidance, give them, and what I mean by that is, how do we talk about their resume? We look at their, and we assess them and see where they are in life. We talk about where they are in life and how can we get them from where they are back to the workforce or into the workforce from where they are. And whether that's through hearing aid, visual aids, examinations, any kind of surgeries, we do on-the-job training. We do a lot of things to help that individual get back into the workforce. So, and I can't cover all of these in the time frame they have, but the vocational rehabilitation services cover so many things for every individual that comes into our offices. And these disabilities are seen and unseen, whether it's mental, visual, hearing, physical, all these disabilities we assist in. And a lot of people don't know that even if you have diabetes, that's a disability, or some kind of ailment within yourself, that's a disability too. So those are the unseen things. A lot of military people come out to military with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and that's an unseen thing, but it's a disability. So we help those individuals get back into the workforce. Whether it's through counseling and services, we try to help them. All right. Next slide, Carl. Okay. Now, for our youth services, with the youth services, we help individuals, what we call youth customers, from the age of 14 on up into their early 20s. And we have programs such as Summer Earn and Learn. And that's a summer program that helps those youth with employment, get their little first taste into employment and things of that. And we also have internships. Now, internships can be with adults as well as the youth. And it's to help them, get their feel for the job, get back into jobs and get back into working. Or for the youth, it's just getting their first taste into an actual full work environment. And we assist with that as well. Next slide, Carl. All right, now, with businesses, this is our other customer. All that I've said before is in customers, what we call customers, or what we call individuals that we assist. So it's hands in hand. It took me a while to catch on to this when I first started here, when they're talking about customers, I'm like, who are we talking about? But now I'm going to talk about our business customers and how we help our businesses. So what do we do for? We do outreach, consultations, we do technical assistance to assist and with the recruitment and the retention of qualified individuals. Qualified individuals are those individuals that we are in our organization that we're helping find employment. All right. Now, How do we get them to be qualified? Hold the slide, Carl. How do we get individuals to be, no, go back, please. How do we get them to be qualified? Well, like I said, there may be an individual that comes in with a hearing problem. What we do is we assess that hearing problem, get them the treatment that they need, help them get the hearing aids, because a lot of employers' insurance may not have hearing insurance. So we help them with that to get them back into the workforce and to get them going. So then they become qualified. All right. Now, these are some of the services that we provide for the employers. Can we go back, Carl? Oh, go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. Keep going back to the employer one, please. No. Okay, this is it. All right. Qualified candidates. This is what I was talking about. I mentioned that while we were talking there about the qualified candidates. And we conduct worksite assessments and job analysis for the candidates. What that means is we come onto the site and we look to see how can we help that individual perform at their peak within that work organization. There are just little tweaks that we may have, you know. Give an example. There's an individual that needed a new desk, but there was a delay in getting the new desk. And so what we did, we came in and we looked at the assessment of the what was needed. And all we had to do was take some 4x4s, put it under the existing desk, raise the desk up so the person can get under the desk with their wheelchair. You know, these are little things that we come in and we assess in the organization just to see what can small tweaks make. Because a lot of employers look, when we start talking about people with disabilities, they look at high expenses that may be occurred while hiring that individual. That's not necessarily true, you know, and there are things that can be done to help those individuals within that organization. There are tax incentives for employers. We have departments that can talk you through and assist you with those tax assistance and things of that nature, and how to file, would tell you what what forms to use, things of that nature, because hiring an individual with disabilities, you can get a tax credit, and it's called what we call a WOTC, which is the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. And if you want to know more about that, Carl, my slides in, it has my name. I can refer you to the right individuals to get that taken care of. We also add job training as needed and support employers with vocational rehabilitation customers if they need assistance on the job. We'll provide support to get some individuals in there to assist with you, so you're not just standing there as an employer by yourself with this individual with a disability. No, we'll come in and help and assess and also walk side by side with you. Next slide, Carl. So this is my favorite thing, is how can employers change within their work environment? Like I said, there's a lot of employers out there that or believe that, hey, first, when we talk about people with disabilities, well, can this person perform the job that I need them to perform? That answer, yes. They can do anything you set before them within their abilities. I will put it that way. And next slide, Carl. But what I think an employer should do is learn more about the individuals, learn more about disabilities, learn more about what they can do as an employer to help hire people with disabilities. Connect with organizations to learn more about, disabilities. Connect with outreach centers. Connect with organizations such as ourselves, the Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehabilitation Service, and lead by example. If you're going to hire somebody with a disability, lead by example from the top down. Leadership, put information out there about the disability. Let everyone know that, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. This is a great opportunity to assist your other employees in understanding a disability, and then promote it. Promote a good work environment, promote a positive outlook with a disability. Don't put that person with a disability off into a corner. Don't let no one put them off into a corner, but work with them, work hand in hand with them, and try to understand what that individual is going through, and help your employees understand, your other employees understand that this can do just as much as they can. It may take longer, but they can get it done. Next slide. Okay, defining a disability. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but we're gonna go back over it just a little. It's any item or piece of equipment or product system acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified or customized, and used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capability for individuals with disability. Now, we talked about hearing, and I keep harping on hearing because I have a special guest after I get done here. I have a special guest that's going to give a story about hearing. So, but these things that you can get off the shelf, you can get from your doctor, you can get from our organization, will help an individual with a disability to get back into the workforce. All right, next slide, Carl. All right, there are different types of accessible technologies. There's no-tech, low-tech, and high-tech. I talked about a no-tech technology that we needed for a person with a desk. There's also low technology, tech stuff that I can't even explain it better than to say that you don't have to spend any money on it. You don't have to worry about, it's just something you can have around your office or at your home, or something you can bring into the office to help assist the individuals. So I was talking about the 4x4s. The low tech stuff is the tools necessary to be used, whether it's magnifying glasses or for people with visual impairments, or it could be a walking cane or things of that nature for people that can't see. All right, or high-tech environment, which is where we get into more, that could cost a little bit. When you're talking about for computers or big equipment for reading devices and things of that nature. So I'm gonna brush on just a few little things, but I want to save some of this for our special guest. Next slide, Carl. Okay, so low-tech stuff. I was talking to someone in a warehouse about a low-tech environment that was used. They had a customer with dyslexia. They would send that person to go from one part of the warehouse to the other part of the warehouse. And they say, hey, we need you to go to area 23 to pick up a piece of a part and bring it back. Well, the person would go and look for area 32 because he had dyslexia. So it would kind of throw that individual, oh, he'd be gone for a while and come back without the particular part that they were looking for. So came in and assessed this situation. And what we came up with was color codes and visual for the individual. So instead of saying, go to area 23, they'd say, go to area red and look for a softball. And it would take him to that individual's table that he needed to go pick up the part from. And it was just little low-tech things like that that would help save a company. But because the customer, the employee was a good employee that they wanted to retain within their services. beautifully, just had a little dyslexia, had a little disability. So they wanted to make sure that that individual, and they did everything to reasonably they could to assist that individual maintain their job. And that's what is required. It's a reasonable accommodation. All right. Once again, low-tech ramps and
Oops.
you're fine, Carl. Low-tech ramps or punch cards or things of that nature that are for people with low sight or people with wheelchairs need to get up 3 stairs, not a whole flight of stairs, but just 3 stairs that you, instead of having to modify and put an elevator in or a lift, they have a little ramp that they put in their organization so the person can get up a couple of stairs to get to the next level for them to do. Okay, next slide. That's low tech. Okay, accessibility software is high tech stuff. I'm skipping the medium range, but this is high tech stuff that you might need within your organization for someone that has a hearing issue that might need a software reader that'll read back to them what they're saying, all right, and or what they're reading. For people that have visual impairments or things like that, they might need that type of software. People with hearing disabilities might need some type of software within their organization just the same to help them out. Next slide, Carl. All right, now this is where I wanted to get into. This is a hearing software that it helps decode. It's for, it puts the little writing or what they call closed captions onto your screen for you, things of that nature. So a person with a hearing disability can read what is being said you don't have an interpreter there for them on a daily basis or what. They could have that type of software that will assist them in finding or understanding what is going on. That might be a little expensive, but that's okay. There are ways that we can help and that we can work with you. All right. Now, in saying that, I'm going to take a pause right here, and I want to introduce to you a very outstanding individual. Her name is Christy Wilson. She is a supervisor in the Round Rock area. I want her to come in. She's a special guest. I want her to come in, tell her story on how she went from where she started at to where she is now as a supervisor with her disability. Christy, take it away.
Yes, thank you, sir, and good morning. I am here, as I just said, to kind of share my story. I have been with VR for a little over 14 years. But my story does not start as a VR staff member. When I was in high school, well, my senior year, really, we started noticing that I had a hearing loss. We do not know when it started, and we never really will. But the summer after I graduated, I was diagnosed with a very severe hearing loss. I was already registered to go to college. I was already signed up. I was 18. I hadn't had a worry in the world. I was going to college. So when I got to College Station, yes, me and Arthur are addies. So when I got to College Station, I asked the professor, I said, can I please sit in the front of the classroom so I can hear? And the professor said, well, you need a letter of accommodation. And of course, I had absolutely no idea what that was. So I went around and found the Disability Services office, and the disability coordinator said, oh, have you applied for VR? Well, again, of course, I had no idea what that was or what I was supposed to do. So she gave me a phone number and said, call them. So I said, okay. So I called, and at that time, the agency was TRC, Texas Rehabilitation Commission. So I called and I got set up with a counselor, and I said, look, I just lost all this hearing, and how I can't hear these teachers. So anyways, that's how I got started. So my counselor was basically a second mom to me. She gave me so much advice. She helped with my tuition, with my books, alarm clocks, that were shaking alarm clocks, everything I needed to go to school to get the training I needed to become successful. So 4 years later, I graduated with my bachelor's, and I was off to find a job. My undergrad degree is in education. So I looked and looked and looked for a teaching position, and I found one. So I was doing great in my classroom. Everything was fine. With what little hearing I had, I was doing great. So that was the end of that VRTX. Then 4 years later, the doctor said, we're going to have to do surgery again, and you're going to lose what's left of your hearing. So I said, okay. I said, I cannot keep on teaching. It was just, as my hearing loss was going down, it was just harder and harder. So I applied for VR again. And this time was really more focused on my job, because I really could not do the job that I was in. A room full of 4 and 5-year-olds is really tough whenever you're not able to hear. So that's why that counselor said, well, you don't have a master's degree, but what do you think about applying for VR counselor? So I thought, so I applied, just thinking, why not? I got the job. So that's really when I started as a VR counselor. After a year, I went back to school to get my master's degree. So I was working full time and going to school full time, but I was learning a lot. So anyways, for 12 years, I worked as a VR counselor. My caseload was all hearing loss. I have people on my caseload that had a very small hearing loss, all the way to customers that were signing deaf. Sound was their main communication. So I worked with people all the way through that process. Kind of like Arthur said, we have a lot of technology, a lot of things that we can offer. The big thing to remember about VR is we're very focused on individual. Everybody's story is different. Everybody needs different accommodations on the job to be successful. We do everything from interpreters to, I have even seen customers that have a mirror. And I think, why on earth would you need a mirror? When you have a mirror, you can see when people are coming behind you. I know I many times I get very scared whenever somebody comes in my room and I don't even know they're there. But with a mirror, you can see who's coming in behind you. That's one of those low technology accommodations. Anyway, it's just things like that. Also, when it was people with telephones, people with hearing loss, telephones is a big issue. I know myself, I cannot understand on a telephone. I can't. Believe me, I've tried, but it's just not possible. So if we have telephones that have captions, or if they're sign skills, we can connect to relay services. There's all kinds of different things that can be used. And when we got kicked home during the pandemic, I literally panicked because I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to be able to communicate from home with Zoom, all these different things that we were learning. I learned, as you guys can see, the interpreter this morning, she's doing fantastic. But I was able to connect in with relay services, do different things. So I learned a lot about technology in the past year and a half. But anyways, back to my story. So I worked as a VR counselor for 12 years. Then the supervisor position came open in my office, and I went to that position. So now I supervise the counselors in the Round Rock office and San Marcos. Like there was explaining, we're kind of the donuts to Travis County. We cover Williamson County. I don't want to say no Travis County because Cedar Park and Leander, there's parts of it is Travis County, there's parts that are Williamson County. So we cover those cities, Idaho, Florence, Taylor. It's a pretty big area. And then in San Marcos, we cover Hayes. I'm trying to think where the county that is, but it's pretty much the area around San Marcos. New Braunfels is a different region. It is covered by the San Antonio offices. But anyways, so now you're probably wondering, how do we recommend someone or refer someone to apply for the services? We recently, this has happened in the pandemic too. We have a website, it's twc.texas.gov. And if you scroll down, there's a link called Start My VR. When you click on that Start My VR, that's when you fill out a small questionnaire, what your disability is, what just your address, phone numbers, that kind of thing. And then that's when a counselor will be contacting you within the next few days to get started. So in just a second, I'm going to put that website into the chat. So yes, done. Yes, thank you, Craig. Questions in chat, that would be awesome. Thank you. Arthur, do you have anything that you would like to add or anything that I missed?
Let me come back on the screen. No, actually, I just wanted to say thank you, Christy, for sharing your story and how you moved from where you were as far as coming out of college all the way up to being a supervisor within our organization, you know, and using your disability. Okay, so I wanted to hit that because of the hearing. I wanted to introduce Christy because of that hearing section, but we also cover visual, people with visual disabilities, whether they're partially or totally blind. All right, so we want, and we provide, we have an organization we work with, which is a part of us, which is the Chris Cole Center, to help people move or learn about how to move or navigate life with visual impairment. They teach Braille, they teach anything as far as people with visual impairment, all right? So let's go to the next slide, Carl. These are some of the sets of technology that we work for. We educate employers on our abilities or what we do. We come in, we'll have individual trainings. We have workforce, like I've said before, workforce assessments. We come in and we do pre-employment training. We assist the employer on onboarding new hires with the disabilities. All of these things I covered a little bit before, and we are willing and able to assist and help any employer with any individual with a disability to meet those requirements within the limits of their disability. And I'm sure that once you hire an individual with a disability, you will be highly impressed on what they can do. Next slide, Carl. That is my information. My email. Oh, I did put that. Okay, my email. I did put my email change. This is my information right here. That website, I think that's changed. So we made a change earlier this year, of course, the website. Christy mentioned it. She put it in the chat of what the website is for contact. But this is my information. If you want to get with me about people with disabilities, I do diversity trainings. I can point you in the right direction to any individual that you may need assistance with as far as finding out more about our organization. So I'm holding that up there for a while. Maybe you want to write my phone number down. I believe Carl is going to put this whole slide presentation within the chat, so you can get to that later. Next slide, Carl. These are some of the next slides coming up are requirements that we have to put in here. This is the contact information for TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, our location, our phone number. We're an equal opportunity employer. Next slide, Carl, please. This is our federal funding page here. I just wanted to throw that up there to let you know how we disperse our funding, how we get our funding, and everything like that. It's some from the federal government, some from the state, and this is the breakdown and how we allocate that funding, or how we receive that funding, and how we spread it out throughout the state to help individuals with disabilities. Okay, next slide, Carl. These are some of the resources, and keep going, Shaw. There's a couple of slides with resources in them. And after this slide, does anyone have any questions about vocational rehabilitation services, what we provide, how we help customers, how we help employers? Do you have any questions at this time that we can answer to better help you? Or maybe you feel that we may have not covered something enough.
Yes, so Arthur, we have a couple of questions. First one is for you.
Yes.
How long have you been a counselor, and what has been your most gratifying experience?
I have never been a counselor. My job is business relations, and I have a master's in business, and I was brought on to talk to businesses and to communicate with businesses about VR services. I wish I was a counselor, but man, what these counselors that we have are awesome, and they do amazing work. But I've never been a counselor, and what is my most gratifying is helping someone get their resume together and helping them walk through the process of getting employment. You know, because people with disabilities want to work, they just need the opportunity to prove that they can work. And to get someone from beginning to the end, get whatever services that they need, whether it's hearing aids, visual assistance, surgeries, whatever that might be, even vehicle modifications, whatever that might be, to get that person to become a qualified customer, and then work them through resume writing, working them through interview process and how to do it, what they should be getting ready for, and then getting them to that employer, and then that employer hiring them. Most gratifying. I can't say that enough, and how that makes me feel to get them to that point.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that. And Christy, I believe that you said you've been working now with vocational rehabilitation services for 12 years. Is that right?
Yes, I was a counselor. I was a counselor for 12 years before moving to the supervisor role.
Yeah.
Like I said, I worked primarily on hearing loss cases, everything from hard of hearing to full severe hearing loss based on only communication. So during that time, for 12 years, during that time, I had experience with a few other disabilities, but hearing loss has always been my primary disability group. I thought you said, you asked about one of your most successful cases. I was sitting there thinking about this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I had a customer walk in that had moved here from Iran. What a lot of people do not realize is sign language. What we do is American Sign Language. So someone from another country is a completely different language. It's not the same. So him and I were not able to communicate at all. He did not have any English. He was not able to understand me nothing. So needless to say, I spent a lot of time with him. We had someone come in that worked with him one-on-one. He was basically, he had to learn a new language. But in the end, after he spent some time with us, the provider, the cassette sat down with him and taught him enough ASL so that he could communicate. But at first we did a lot of gestures, a lot. And in the end, he was placed on a job. I believe he was an assembly type position, but he was able to do it successfully. So he was a successful closure.
Well, that was a great segue there too, because that was the second part of the question. Was what was the most difficult?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you ran right into it. It was great. That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough. The work that you folks are doing is having such an impact. We know that 25% of the U.S. population will experience either a temporary or permanent disability in the course of their lives, which means employers at some point in time are going to face upwards of perhaps 25% of their workforce having a acknowledged or a very secret or very quiet disability that they don't want to share with anyone. And it's so gratifying and so wonderful that you folks are there to take care of them. I know in the 9-county area surrounding Travis, we have 8 offices, 8 locations, including 9 actually, including some community resource centers where we can get them in touch with you folks. And I think we just had another question just pop up here. So let me grab this before we close out today. This one, we've had several of them actually.
Yeah.
This one from Marcel. How do you know if your medical condition is considered a disability? In other words, osteoarthritis or fibromyalgia?
To answer that question, I was thinking about that. That's what we were talking about when it says seen and unseen. There are a lot of disabilities out there that people don't know that are disabilities, like arthritis, like fibromyalgia, like disability, diabetes. I can't even say it right. Like or a blood disease or whatever. These are all disabilities. Whatever hinders you from living life or slows you down from living life, some deep disabilities are temporary. You might need a hip replacement or a knee replacement, but until then, that's a disability because it's limiting you. That knee might be limiting you from working to your full capacity, or that hip replacement or that shoulder. Once it's, that's done, okay, yeah, you might have lingering disabilities after that, but then we can deal with those as they come. But to answer that question, as far as the osteoarthritis and the fibromyalgia, those are disabilities. Can I take the next one, Carl, about the?
Of course you can.
I'm gonna let Christy answer that one about the Round Rock one because she's from Round Rock. So I'm gonna let her answer that one. But I'm gonna answer this one about if an individual were to be hired and needs special equipment, how do we go about getting that equipment? And will someone be there to set the equipment up for their needs? I'm gonna say, depending on what the equipment is, okay? And who purchases the equipment? The employer purchases the equipment, then they would be responsible for setting it up, getting the right people there. However, I will say this: if it's within our purview of what we have for those individuals, we will train that individual on that piece of equipment as far as how to use it, things like that. So when they move into that workforce, they already have a working knowledge of that equipment before they get there. Or if already there and we have that type of equipment within our organization, we'll provide that training for the individual on how to use that piece of equipment. And then go back into the workforce and use that piece of equipment. Yeah, I hope that touched on that, because when you say a special equipment, that covers a whole range of things. And because it could be like, whether it's computer, whether it's a manual piece of equipment, it could be a lot of things. So we want to make sure that we cover that. You know, when you say special equipment, that's a lot. That's a lot. So I will say, yes, we can help. We'll assist.
Excellent. Thank you, Arthur. And I know we had someone on there, they must have left. They're asking about VR services in Round Rock, and I'm putting the information up right now. You can call the phone number that's in the chat room right now. It's 512-244-2207. Yadira will answer the phone once you go through a couple of the prompts and tell her that that your counselor has moved on and you'd like to have a new counselor assigned, and she'll get you in touch with Christy or Robin or one of the folks in our Round Rock office that can get you started and pointed in the right direction.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Carl, for that. You can also go to that website and go to that I put in the chat, the Start My VR, and that will also get you started the application process. Still kind of new, but like I said, if you fill out, it's real short questions, your name, address, phone number, that sort of thing. And then it comes directly to us, and you get a call in a few days.
The customer she said she was a current customer, and I did reply to her. I think I messed it up initially because I was trying to type the answer. So it does show up now. I typed it in manually, but she was just saying that her VR counselor has no longer been working, in our office. So I told her that she's been assigned a temporary counselor, and I will look up her case for her and tell her who that person is. So I will do that after this concludes.
Okay.
Carl, real quick, there is another question in there that I would like to touch on. It's from Letitia Rodriguez. And it's, do people with unseen disabilities need a letter from their doctor regarding the disability? I will say this, it's up to that employer. If employer needs to, because some people can come in there and say they have a disability and they don't. But so it's up to that employer if they need something from the doctor. And you go to your doctor, you get a letter from the doctor, bring it in to the employer. Now, I must say this, the employer has the obligation to do reasonable accommodations, not excessive, but reasonable accommodations by law. So whatever that deems to be reasonable, you need to get with that employer, the HR department, to find out what their reasonable accommodations would be for your disability to be met. Okay, so leave it at that as far as that question.
Sure, and I can tell you from personal experience that Most companies, especially the larger companies, have an established procedure for this. Most will say just get a doctor's note and we'll handle it that way. I would recommend that you not only get the doctor's note, but that you go out onto the ADA website. There is a form there. Get your doctor to sign off on that form, because you may find yourself in a situation weeks or months down the road where they ask, where's that form? And you didn't provide it. And then they come back and say, well, we're not going to deal with your accommodation. And so, and they can't do that, but some companies do. And I would just say to go ahead and make sure that you not only provide the doctor's note, but you also go onto the ADA website and provide them with the form that's required through the ADA. And that puts the company, the ADA, everybody on notice that you are requesting an accommodation due to a specific disability.
Would also add to that, Carl, that if you're going to get a letter from the doctor, make sure before you go to the doctor, get a clear understanding from that employer's human resources or whoever's assisting you. They consider reasonable accommodations for that particular thing. That way, when you go to the doctor, they can, when he writes that letter, he adds in there what your limitations are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a clear understanding of what your limitations are and everything like that. So everybody's on notice. So well, that wasn't in the letter. That didn't make sense. So everybody knows.
Yeah, doctors deal with this every day. And some of them are very responsive and some of them are not. If you don't get a response back from your doctor in a couple of days, call the main office, ask for the office manager or the head nurse there and say, hey, I need this, I need it as quickly as possible. And then they'll get it over to you. But they're swamped now. They always are swamped, but I mean, they're specifically challenged right now, given the situation that we're in with the pandemic. So everybody is, everything is moving a little slower than it once did, and that we may have become accustomed to. So this, as I mentioned at the very beginning, both thank you to Arthur for hosting this today, and to Christy Wilson for sharing her story. That's a remarkable story, Christy. I'm so glad that you chose not to be an educator and chose to be a VR counselor. Because I know you're helping people every day, specifically with hearing loss. Let me click here. Very fun. Normally we have two people that are working this, and one manages the chat, and the other, and all the little things that go along with it, and the other one forwards the slides. Well, we have just me today. And if you jump from one application to another, it'll do goofy things like advance 6 slides on you. So we're going to try not to do that today. I'm going to hit this right here next week at 9 a.m., October 21st, on Zoom. That is webinar 3. The 3's kind of cut off there. But Robin Farris, who you've heard on the line, is an assistive technologies expert, as is Antoinette Verdon. And we're also going to have Candace Booth from Stealth Technologies. They're part of the Pride organization that makes the wheelchairs and the mobility scooters. And they're located here in Burnet, Texas. And they'll be talking about what they do is they develop specific applications for specific individuals. So you may get a Pride mobility scooter or chair from them, but it may not have the specific adaptive technologies that you need for your personal situation. And so their engineers work directly with the individual to create that technology so that they get the most from the chair or the scooter. And so Robin and Antoinette will be with us next week. Thank you to Paula for being our interpreter this week, as always. Great job. I told Paula she's a little quiet. We have to work on that a little bit, but she's done a great job with us. And thank you so much, Paula. We'll be back next Thursday at 9 a.m. And we would like to thank all of you for joining us today and participating in National Disability Employment Awareness Month. If anyone should have any questions, you can reach out to the numbers that we've already provided. You can reach me at that number 512-244-2207, 2207, and ask for me, or just hit extension 1021. Thanks so much for joining us today. Arthur and Christy, thanks again. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.